Hey, Indy filmmakers, Griffin here. Let's go underwater.
You're watching Cheap Thing versus Expensive Thing, the show where filmmaking gear is put to the financial test. Today, can this $42 plastic bag keep my camera safe underwater, or do I really need to spend over $2,000 on a serious camera housing? I'm your filmmaker host, Griffin Hammond, and today I am testing out the Ikelite 200DL. At $1,700, this housing costs just as much as the camera it protects. And for that price, I can't even go underwater yet. I still need a dome port and some accessories to make this thing operational. So before I head to the beach, I thought I would test a much cheaper option, the DiCAPac waterproof camera case. It's kind of a fancy Ziploc bag for your camera. To find out which one I really need to use my camera underwater, I'm lucky enough to be headed with some friends to the Dominican Republic, where I'll subject this equipment to 3 tests: protection, usability, and image quality. Just look at the model number for the Ikelite 200DL and you know its depth rating, waterproof down to 200 feet. I'm also installing this dome port for wide-angle lenses and a clamp accessory to control my zoom lens underwater. The housing is hard plastic, and this clear back door clamps into place with an O-ring keeping a tight seal. The DiCAPac bag has a depth rating of just over 16 feet. But honestly, I'm not scuba diving, just snorkeling, so I shouldn't need more than a few feet underwater. The bag is made of soft plastic, including silicone, with a hard plastic lens port that screws on and off. It closes like a Ziploc bag, pressed to seal, then it rolls up tightly into 2 sets of Velcro. Clearly, with its much better depth rating, the Ikelite wins the protection contest. But more importantly, it's easier to trust the Ikelite because I can see through the back door so clearly. And there's lots of clearance around the camera, so if any water were to get inside, I would see it splashing around below the camera. With the DiCAPac, even if that soft plastic is a good barrier, this clear panel isn't a flat surface, so it really doesn't make a great window. It's much harder to trust it when I'm not sure I'd be able to see if water had breached the bag. What about usability? Which one is easier to operate? In each case, the camera body has to be loaded in first. Then you can attach the lens through the front port. And don't make the mistake I kept making. Be sure to flip around your LCD before you put it in the bag. Other things to remember with both cases: you want a full battery and formatted SD card because you can't swap those while you're underwater. This DiCAPac is made for mirrorless cameras, but my Panasonic GH5 is a tight fit. The lens port maxes out at a 65mm diameter, so I found my 12 to 35mm was my best lens that could fit. With the wide dome port on the Ikelite, I could fit a larger lens, so I went with the 8 to 18mm. You want wide lenses because there's a magnification effect that happens underwater. Plus, you want to shoot close up to your subjects to minimize haze. The coolest part about the Ikelite is that every button, dial, and switch on my Panasonic GH5 is mapped to a knob on the outside of the housing. I can turn the zoom of my lens, I can use the giant lever to fire my shutter, and buttons like white balance are easily accessible. In the DiCAPac, there's a finger sleeve above the shutter where I can also reach controls like white balance. But so many of the dials and buttons are out of reach or hard to operate through that back clear plastic. I really need to set everything on this camera to auto. Here you can see me struggling for focus, but when I let the camera do all the work for me, the footage looks fine. The biggest problem with this plastic bag is I don't have a good tactile connection to the camera. So I accidentally do that thing where I don't realize I'm recording, and every time I think I'm starting a shot, I'm actually ending it. So in terms of usability, the expensive Ikelite wins this round. Listening to this clip, the audio is muffled. You can tell we're inside the plastic DiCAPac. But visually, you have no idea. The port on this case doesn't interfere with the image quality as far as I can see. If anything, the giant dome port on the Ikelite is actually more likely to show water droplets in my shots. But this is a selling point. Because the dome port puts some distance between my lens and the water, you can shoot these cool half-in, half-out photos. I got great photos with both cases, but the ones I'm proudest of all came from the Ikelite. I thought surely, with this extreme price difference, that the DiCAPac would win the day. I mean, both of these options get my camera underwater, and the Ikelite housing is 50 times the price. But these days, I have a lot of options for shooting underwater. GoPros are waterproof. Even my iPhone is water resistant enough to shoot photos and videos underwater. And yet the whole point of this is to get my camera underwater, the one that I'm comfortable with, my camera with all of its unique features. And for that reason, I think the expensive thing has to win this week's episode. I like that I can zoom the lens, touch every button. I can make a lot of creative decisions and changes while underwater. The DiCAPac does get my camera underwater, but it doesn't give me any precision. So I think I just have to accept that to shoot the kinds of photos and videos I want underwater, I'll have to spend $2,000 to get there. Thank you for watching Cheap Thing versus Expensive Thing. Let me know in the comments what kind of shooting you would want to do underwater. And be sure to join me next week when I compare a $600 professional boom pole to a $10 broom pole.